All right, everybody, welcome back to the Glass Less Traveled. My name is Mike. I am a certified bourbon steward and founder of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society. We're going to explore and introduce you to America's craft distilleries, microbreweries, industry insiders, and professional imbibers to give you guys the inside scoop on the things you need to be drinking. Tonight, we're talking Bourbon Heritage Month and all things bourbon with our friend and fellow fellow bourbon steward, Jeff Schwartz, aka WhiskeyFellow. If you guys have any questions about bourbon, things you are curious about, or just something you always wanted to know about bourbon, comment with your questions and it'll pop up right on screen for us to answer. Jeff, thank you for joining us again tonight. How are things there in Wisconsin with you?
They are a little cold today. I actually had to crank up the furnace for the first time this year. Never had to do that in September before.
I saw you posted something on Facebook today about how you had to actually turn on your furnace for the first time for the first September you've ever had to do that. It's getting a little chilly down here. It was raining all day today. I'm a little upset. I was actually expecting some samples from Boot Hill Distillery today that were supposed to be delivered via FedEx. And FedEx decided that this very light sprinkle that we're having this evening was a weather delay. So they are not getting delivered today. Hopefully they will be delivered tomorrow. So we'll see. But you have some samples that I didn't send them to you. I actually hand delivered them to your front step.
That's correct.
So we'll get into those in a little bit. I want to start with Bourbon Heritage Month and the hashtag 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge. What is this challenge? How do people sign up for it, and what can people win?
Okay, so the challenge, give you a little bit of background on it. I've always wanted to go to the Bourbon Heritage Festival, and I've never been. And every time I wanted to go, something would come up to interfere with that. So I decided I was going to create my own way to celebrate Bourbon Heritage Month. And I did a 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge. And the goal was to drink 30 different bourbons across the course of the month. No repeats. And, you throw this out there and people go, oh, I can drink 30 bourbons easy. Well, so can I, but it's 30 different bourbons, which becomes part of the challenge. It started off really, really small, and probably, I want to say 3 years ago, I decided to add a charity angle to it because it started getting big. And bourbon community is awesome, and I wanted to do something to give back. So the other half of this challenge is to, at the end of it, donate $30 or more for the 30 Days of Bourbon to any charity of your choice. I don't care who. This year's a little rough because a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are hurting pretty bad. And, if you can do it, great. And if you can't, oh, well. And the main point of this is have fun, discover something that's in your liquor cabinet that you haven't touched in forever. And go ahead and enjoy that too. It's a good way to re-explore what you have at home and go to bars and friends' houses and find something different.
So I want to apologize real quick here, Jeff, not to kind of sidetrack. We're having, you guys that watch the show regularly and will listen to the podcast know that we have been plagued with internet issues here, router issues, Wi-Fi, you name it. I have been basically plagued by it. I do want to let everybody know that we're going to do 2 more shows after this, and we're going to go on hiatus for the rest of the year. My wife and I are planning on moving out of state, so we're going to take the rest of that time because we're just continuously being plagued with all of these issues. We're going to wait, and we're going to hopefully move out of state here in January, and then we'll have our own place to be at. So I apologize if the Wi-Fi is a little shoddy. We've been trying to work on it. It's been screwy for us this entire time that we've been doing the show for the past few months. So if we lose Wi-Fi, I apologize. I'll try to jump back on as quickly as possible. But to go back to Bourbon Heritage Month, I didn't do it last year. I know you did it. You've been doing it for the past 6 years or so. You do have a huge collection that you have to choose from. I started doing it this year. I actually kind of like pre-filled out my calendar with what I wanted to drink. For those of you guys who haven't got your calendar yet, you can go to bourbonbanter.com to print off your calendar on a PDF. Just mark down what you're drinking every day, post about it, and hashtag 30 days of bourbon, and make sure to tag Bourbon Banter on Instagram or Facebook. I filled mine out right away. I was like super excited about it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do, like Thursdays are going to be like my throwback Thursday, right? So I'm going to do all my Dusties and all my older bourbons. Fridays are going to be Foolproof Friday. And you said, you even said, you're like, I've tried to do that in the past and I've never stuck with the calendar. And Jeff, you're right. You're right. Yep. I'm trying to, and I have so far, but I find that I'm like, oh man, I should have done this instead. Like you look at your collection right off the bat and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then the day comes and you're like, oh man, I should have done this one instead. This would have been so much better.
I map it out every single year, and every single year I deviate from it. And this year already has been no exception to it. I've deviated from it twice. Once because we scheduled this show.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something fun in particular for this show. I had it on my calendar anyway, but on a different day. You did ask also earlier where you register, and it's bourbonandbanter.com. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that you can win, I mean, we're giving away bottles of bourbon. We're giving away a lot of swag. There are prizes done weekly. And then at the end of Bourbon Heritage Month, there's a grand, huge swag prize that somebody can win. But I mean, there's lots of great stuff there, and we get a lot of. We're blessed to get a lot of donations from the various distilleries who want to take part of the 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge as well.
So up on the screen, Silverlock Whiskey Club who's a longtime listener. They asked, "Oh my God, where are you moving to?" So for those of you guys who don't know, my wife and I are trying to move down to South Carolina. We're probably going to end up moving in January. We'll get into that later on in the show. But we're only going to do 2 more episodes after this one with the guys at the Sipping Social podcast and the other one with Big Escambia Spirits down in Alabama. And then we're just going to go on hiatus for a little while. We were talking about the calendar and what you can win. I've been following Bourbon and Banter on Instagram, and yesterday they posted something that the winner of the first raffle didn't respond within 48 hours. So we're going with somebody new, and I'm like reloading my email like every 30 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, I hope I win something. But you don't realize like how many people. I mean, I posted this on the Fox Valley Whiskey Society at the beginning of the month, and we have a ton of people that have joined in. I know you guys, the Silverlock Whiskey Club, I'm sure is doing it as well. You have people that are doing it. So it's at this point, it's kind of huge, but I'm still crossing my fingers, Jeff, that I can get.
It is amazing how this has just become viral, and people look forward to it every year now. And I mean, when I started off, the first year, it was just me. Second year, we got a couple thousand people to follow. And this year, I think we looked and there's something like 2.5 million hashtags.
Oh. So
those are not all people who are registered with Bourbon and Banter, so you're not competing against that many people.
Yeah.
But there's I think we've had close to 5,000 entries this month already. So, wow. But yeah, if we pick a winner and they don't respond within, I believe, 24 hours, we choose somebody else.
So get your name in the hat as frequently as possible. You can go to bourbonandbanter.com and you can actually there's a certain section where you can actually add more entries for your name just by liking them on Facebook, Instagram, following them on Twitter.
Yes,
visiting their website, going to their YouTube page, taking like a bourbon knowledge quiz. You get an extra 10 entries. So definitely go to bourbonandbanter.com and sign up for this. It's super, super cool, really fun. I found that actually this is kind of helping me limit myself almost, because now I have like this, 30 days of just boom, 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 boom. So I find that I'm really only sipping on like maybe 2 ounces a night, and then I'm just kind of done, know. So if you have a problem with that, fill out the calendar and just stick to one thing a night.
As I like to say, it's your liver. So
I want to talk about Bourbon Heritage Month.
Sure.
So what is Bourbon Heritage Month, and why are we celebrating it as bourbon enthusiasts?
Bourbon Heritage Month, the bourbon was declared the United States native spirit. So that was an act of Congress. And then we have Bourbon Heritage Month to celebrate that, and it runs every September. It's a big deal, and I've found a way to capitalize on it, with some publicity and some charity. Speaking of charity, have you chosen one yet?
I have not. We're in the works right now of doing a private barrel.
Mm-hmm.
We're crossing our fingers that we'll be able to get a well or foolproof barrel from Sazerac. I'm very, very doubtful. I'm not getting my hopes too high. With that, should the next barrel pick that we're able to do, we're also working on one with Boot Hill as well. Mm-hmm. Working with a couple liquor stores in the area that are, we're just kind of toying around the idea. But we are looking into some different charities with the proceeds of all the bottles that we sell will go to a specific charity.
That's awesome.
We don't really know. There's so many good ones. It's like, how do you pick just one? I think, obviously yours is a really great cause, the charity that you've chosen. I think the one that we would go with would probably be some kind of like restaurant relief fund or bartender relief fund or something like that.
That's fantastic. And when I introduced it this year, I suggested people do that.
Yeah.
Because again, there's so many people in this industry who are out of work,
mm-hmm.
and we should do what we can to help them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what we'll probably end up doing, is just choosing one of those charities. I know Bullet has one. I'm sure Sazerac probably has one. I think Maker's Mark has one. So there's a lot of these different charities. If you guys
guilds, there's a bunch of them.
There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. So we'll find the right one. So right now I'm charityless.
Okay.
But I'm sure I'll get to one. Later on, hopefully once we start the second half of the month.
Yeah, 20 days, so it's okay.
Yeah, we still got some time. So regarding Bourbon Heritage Month, this whole thing started, I think it was August 2nd of 2007 when the U.S. Senate declared September as a National Bourbon Heritage Month. The bill passed unanimously and called for consumers who enjoyed bourbon to do so responsibly and in moderation, which I know sometimes is hard to do for us who like to sample and try everything and as many things as we can.
Yes.
But that's kind of the whole point. The whole point was to just, get people to enjoy it and enjoy it responsibly. And you're right. It's to kind of follow up on that declaration in 1964 that kind of named bourbon America's native spirit. So that's really kind of what we're celebrating this month, and that's what we're toasting to. Which, by the way, we have not toasted anything because I have nothing in my glass yet. So, Jeff, I know we're going to talk about some of the samples that I sent you. Today is Throwback Thursday for me, which calls for a dusty bourbon.
Nice.
Tonight, hold on, let me get it out here. I'm going to be sipping on my 1980 Jim Beam Globe decanter. This is nothing particularly special. This is 80 proof bourbon. It is 100 months old, which is 8 years and 4 months. It doesn't, taste super, super good. For those of you guys who have a dusty bourbon collection, and I know, Jeff, you've probably experienced this too. They all kind of taste like walking into like an old basement almost, right? You know what I mean? It's got that like kind of a dusty, musty, like flavor to it, aroma. But this is a really, really good one. I enjoy sipping it. I'm not going to sip on it all night. I'm only going to have one glass of it, and we'll go into that a little bit later as to why I'm only having one glass of it. But I want to know, so I sent you some samples. I want to know what you're going to sip on first, and I'm curious as to hear your thoughts.
Well, what I'm sipping on first is actually not one of your samples.
Oh.
What I'm sipping on first is Cinder Dick. And the story behind this one is it's out of Durango, Colorado, from Durango Craft Spirits. It is a 1 year that is a little mind-blowing. You know, you hear 1 year, and this was done in full-size barrels, 53 gallon, and it's super smoky, and I love it.
Really?
It's there's nothing young about this. I don't know if altitude has something to do with it or not, but it's a lot of fun. Cinder Dick is a railroad term, and the way I discovered this was they were the owner of Cinder Dick was on a social media page, and he mentioned it, and I said, you know, I've got to try that whiskey. And he goes, why? I said, good, bad, or ugly, I need a bottle called Cinder Dick.
I need it on my shelf.
I need it on my shelf. I want to review it. And he goes, okay, I'll get you a bottle. So a bottle comes, and, you know, I'm looking at it. It's like, that is just the best name. And there's a cool train on it. And, you know, again, there's a train on the label.
Yeah.
But a Cinder Dick is a railroad detective. And it's slang for the term. And, you know, the railroad detectives who used to go around, you know, somebody try and rob a train. These are the guys who would investigate it.
Really?
And and it's got a great story behind the name. And
so where is it from again?
Durango Craft Spirits.
Out of
Colorado.
Out of Colorado. Okay.
And Durango has one of the nation's most famous railroad lines, the Durango Silverton Railroad line, and it's a tourist thing right now. It used to be, you know, industrial, but it's touristy because it's got some of the most beautiful views in the world. And I've been on this train before. It's a lot of fun, and you know, this is a good. And I'm sorry, this is 2 years, not 1 year. It's 2 years in a single new barrel. And it's a full 53 gallon barrel. But you know, it's a lot of fun, and I thought it would be fun to pour it for tonight.
I'm also interested as to what everybody else out there that's watching or listening live is sipping on this evening. What your day, what is it, day 10? I think today is what your day 10 bourbon, what you guys are sipping on tonight. I'd love to see the comments out there. So please feel free to comment. It'll pop up here on the screen. I decided to go with this old dusty Jim Beam. I get lots of questions about these bottles, so I want to take some live questions regarding this decanter, but just kind of ceramic decanters and some of the old classic whiskeys or vintage whiskeys in general. Let's see here. So we got somebody who's drinking Michter's 10. Oh, the 2020
nice.
Michter's 10.
Nice.
That one, and we'll talk about that one here in a little bit coming up. Reminder to viewers, if you guys have any questions just about bourbon in general, today is kind of all things bourbon. Feel free to comment. We'll do our best to answer questions. If it's just kind of, you know, something that you always wanted to know, or just a question that you had, or even if it's just a post to say what you're drinking. So one of the things I want to talk about this dusty bourbon here real quick. The reason I'm only pouring one glass of this, and this is maybe a little bit too heavy for some people, but we'll get into that. These ceramic decanters were painted with a lead-based paint. And over the years, the lead leaches into the actual whiskey itself. It's not really much of a concern if you're a healthy person. If your liver and your kidneys are functioning properly. I'm only going to sip on this one glass of this tonight because lead poisoning actually mimics intoxication. So you never really know which one it's going to be. So I'm only sipping on this a little bit tonight. I am going to be pouring something else that I'll have the sip on. But I do get a lot of questions regarding these like dusty bourbons. How much of it can you drink? Is it dangerous? Is it going to kill me? What, so on and so forth. It can be dangerous. If I were to sit here and drink this entire bottle in one sitting, or if I were to sit here with one or two friends and drink the entire bottle in one sitting, it can get dangerous. You can start to suffer from headaches and nausea and vomiting and dizziness. All the things that are associated with being pretty drunk.
Yes.
Something like this, though, and Jeff, this isn't really going to do much. I'll be fine drinking this. I'm a healthy individual. My liver is healthy. My kidneys are healthy. I feel fine, for the most part. So cheers to everybody out there who has a dusty bourbon. I always say, as long as it's clear, if you can see through it, if it's not, super cloudy or just kind of looks muddy, feel free to drink it. If it looks like bourbon, feel free to drink it. It shouldn't really pose too many issues.
And one thing I want to say while you're enjoying that is it can leach. It's not, there are many of these ceramic decanters, and I've got 3 of them that are full. There are many of these that don't leach at all.
Right.
And again, I think you're giving good advice there. If it looks like bourbon, go ahead and enjoy it. If it looks cloudy and muddy, probably not.
Toss it down the drain.
Yeah. But keep the decanter. They're pretty.
They are, yeah. And the other thing is that not all of these old decanters were made out of ceramic to begin with. Many of them were actually made out of glass. The telltale sign is when you unscrew the top. Most of them were screw tops. If it's glass that you see underneath the top, it's a glass decanter, in which case it's fine. There's no problem with leaching lead into it because it can't leach through the glass. If it's ceramic, just pour a little bit out. If it's super cloudy and super kind of muddy looking, maybe it's time to pour it down the drain. But save the decanter. Some of them can be collectible, which is kind of going on to my next point. These things are typically not as valuable as you might think they are. Usually you'll see these things at like antique shops or or estate sales or something like that. And people think, oh, well, it's old and bourbon is real hot now, so I can sell it for $50 or $100. I usually try not to pay anything over like $10 to $15 for some of these things. Most of the time, they're not even worth it. Yeah, most of the time, they're not even worth $10 to $15. To be honest with you, most of these only have a valuation of around $4 to $6. And even when they're full, they're super not, they're not super valuable. The whiskey inside isn't really anything to write home about. I'm sipping on this right now. And like I said, it kind of reminds me of walking into an old, musty, dusty basement. There's little notes of like brown sugar and vanilla back there, but for the most part, this is, pretty, accurate representation of what these dusties will taste like. So we've got some people, what is Silverlock? Is it better to run old dusties that are cloudy, muddy through a coffee filter? I don't actually recommend running it through a coffee filter at all. A fine mesh sieve will be fine to get all that fine particulate. Typically what happens, or what happened and what happens still, is you see these videos, or you've been to the distillery where they dump the barrel and it goes through like charcoal filtering. That's basically just to filter out all like the wood char and all the gross stuff that's been sitting in that barrel. But sometimes that stuff does get through. I don't recommend running it through a coffee filter. And the reason being is because there's some really beautiful oils that are in these bourbons that will get filtered out, and they'll stay in the filter. And all of that watery juice will just kind of run through the filter. So really, you're kind of taking away that beautiful vanilla, caramely, brown, sugary taste that you're getting from the oils. I recommend just running it through like a really fine mesh sieve. Don't do it through a coffee filter. I've done that in the past, and I totally ruined. I actually have one back behind me that I totally ruined because I ran it through a coffee filter, and I regret it because I'll never know what it really tasted like. So not through a coffee filter, not even really through cheesecloth. Just a fine mesh sieve will do just fine. But again, only sip on it maybe an ounce or two at most. I'd say maybe every 1 to 2 weeks. I typically don't sip on these too often. Anybody else out there have any questions just on bourbon in general, Bourbon Heritage Month, how you guys can enter the raffle? Please feel free, or tell us what you guys are drinking tonight. If possible, if you guys are watching on Facebook, if you could allow StreamYard to use your name so that it pops up with your name and not just Facebook user, that would be much appreciated. I want to talk about what's been in the news recently, bourbon news. The biggest thing being that Sazerac and Buffalo Trace have released the very coveted, very allocated, and shockingly expensive on secondary market BTAC series, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. This is something that comes out every year right around this time. It consists of Eagle Rare, Sazerac, William LaRue Weller, George T. Stagg, and there's one, I think.
Handy.
Thomas H. Handy. They retail for about $99, but you will never, hardly ever see a BTAC series go for $99 on a shelf anywhere. Jeff, I don't know if you've ever seen one for actual retail. I know I never have. Usually I see them.
I bought it, but not off the shelf. So usually it's you've got a store owner friend who's got a bottle. It's like, I'll sell it to you for retail. And yeah, I've picked up a few that way.
I would love to pick up a few. I mean, obviously, I'm more of a craft guy, so I try not to spend too much of that money on any of these super rare, hard to come by allocated bottles. I know a lot of our viewers and a lot of our listeners and a lot of members of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society are chasing after that stuff. Those are really cool bottles to have. They're really cool to put on a shelf. They're absolutely fantastic. They taste wonderful. If you're curious as to how these things actually taste, what I recommend doing is going to a restaurant that you know is going to have it. Down here, we have Niche, we have Barrel and Rye, we have Maize and Mash, Burger Local, Burger Social. We have Hardware. We have all these different restaurants that have this stuff on the shelf. They're a little expensive for a pour, but for me, I think it's worth it to spend maybe $20 to $25 on a pour of BTAC. So you know that if you do see it in the wild and you're like, oh, it's $100 or it's $150 or even $200, if it's something that you really, really want, for me, I think, hey, if it's something you really want, it's your money. I mean, go for it. What are your thoughts on this whole BTAC thing? Is it kind of overhyped at this point?
Yes and no. There are years that are better than others. For instance, 2019 was not a particularly good year for BTAC, for any of it. You've got like 2015, 2016 were very good years.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends each one. I mean, there's no more Stitzel Weller juice going into these things. It's all it's all strictly Sazerac.
Mm-hmm.
But there are good ones. And I mean, keep in mind, you taste one this year and you like it does not mean you're going to like next year's.
True. Very true.
And, there were some very, very disappointing reviews last year. I didn't try anything out of last year's batch. So I don't know if the reviews were justified or not, but the general consensus seemed to be it was a pretty poor all-around release.
Yeah.
But others have been fantastic. I'm with you though. I don't chase these bourbons anymore. I come up and if I happen to fall onto one, great, I'll buy it. But I'm more interested in what's new and different, and
mm-hmm.
Store picks, things of that nature
mm-hmm.
are a lot more exciting to me than BTAC or Pappy or Old Forester birthday bourbon or whatever.
Yeah, and that's another one. Is the Old Forester? It's the Old Forester birthday bourbon, which was just released on September 2nd.
Yep.
Which is George Garvin Brown, the founder of Old Forester. It's his birthday. It gets released every year on September 2nd. This year, obviously, was a little bit different for for birthday bourbon. They actually did it rather than selling them at the distillery, because obviously the distillery itself was closed. They weren't allowing that many people in. They did online sales. And it's funny because we have a lot of people that were commenting on the Fox Valley Whiskey Society saying that I had logged in, I had, given them my email address, set up the email notifications. I was all the way there ready to complete my order. And then boom, the site crashed. Really, really huge talking point in the bourbon industry this year was the birthday bourbon website crashing, and people couldn't get their bourbon. My question to you, and something that's kind of been talked about on social media outlets, is birthday bourbon the next Pappy? Is it going to be that sought after and that popular that people are now going to start saying, oh, that's the one that I have to have?
No, birthday bourbon is good. I polished off the very last of mine, the second, which was a 2016. I polished that off on the second day of the 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge. But it's good. Again, it's like BTAC. It changes year to year. Mm-hmm. It's distilled at different brown form and distilleries. It's not just Old Forester doing it. So this year it was a 10-year, I believe. In the past, for the most part, it's been 12 years. So this one that got released this year is completely different. Yeah, and they're different proofs, and it's like BTAC. It's different proofs every time. Is this going to be the next Pappy? I don't think so. If it was going to be, it would have done that years ago, along with Pappy. It's nothing competes really with Pappy and BTAC as far as what's seriously sought after. Sure. There's other things. There's Kentucky Owl. There's you've got fans of Old Forester birthday bourbon. There's Smoke Wagon right now is the big one.
Smoke Wagon is real hot right now. Real popular.
And do I see Old Forester birthday bourbon suddenly becoming the Pappy? No, I don't. It's got its fan base, but no. Yeah.
Somebody asked at what price point is too much for a 750 milliliter bottle, I assume, of birthday bourbon. That's a really tough question as far as how much is too much. For me, I one time spent, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I one time spent over $100 for a bottle of Blanton's. That's because I really wanted it. I really wanted to try it. It's really, really hard to find. I found nobody in the area that even had a bottle. So I finally found it, and I was like, you know what, whatever. I've got a nice, clean $100 bill on me. There you go. So how much is too much to pay really kind of just depends on how much is too much for you. Exactly. If it's something that you really, really, really want, I say go for it. Birthday bourbon, I want to say, and Jeff, maybe correct me on this one, but I think it retails, is it like 120? Or 120, 130, yeah. Somewhere around there. 120 to 150 is, I think, what it retails for. If anybody knows, please comment what the actual retail price is for it. For me, if it's something that I really, really wanted, if it has $130 retail, if it's something that I really, really, really had to have, to go up, to $100 and maybe $85, $200, it's not out of the question. When you get these people that are like, oh, I don't spend a penny over retail. Well, good for you. If I find something for $5 over retail, I'm not going to scoff at it and be like, oh, well, the liquor store, blah, 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 blah. It's $5. You know what I mean? You spent more than that on your Starbucks this morning. So just get the bottle.
You spent $5 in gas just to get to the store.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Silverlock Whiskey Club, anything over 1350 is too much. Hey, I like my Benchmark. I do like my Benchmark 8. That's actually another one that just recently came out. Was the latest releases in this Benchmark series.
Full that's Sazerac for you.
Exactly. What do you think of it? So, what do you think of this? This whole, Benchmark is coming out with, all this new stuff. Early times, Early Times was just bought by Sazerac, which was formerly owned by Brown-Forman Company, which is Old Forester. It is Jack Daniels, Woodford Reserve. What do you think of Buffalo or Sazerac now owning Early Times? Do you think, I've been seeing it everywhere. I've been seeing everybody, oh, look what I found today. Look what I found today. I've never had any trouble finding it ever. But now I think it's going to go the way, now that Sazerac owns it, I think people are looking at it as an investment. Thoughts on Early Times?
I have some dusty Early Times when it was still bourbon. Right now it's just American whiskey.
Yeah.
I see Sazerac reverting back to it being a bourbon, and I see them doing the exact same thing with it that they did with Benchmark. The same thing they've been doing with Weller is there's going to be a full proof and a whatever proof and orange cinnamon flavor or pumpkin spice flavor for fall, and they're going to get. At some point, I have a ton of respect for them for how they market it. They're marketing geniuses. At the other end, I think they also ruin it a bit.
Yeah.
The Weller line is stupid now.
It
was fine when it was Weller 12 and Old Weller Antique. And the special reserve had its fans too. But then it's foolproof and the build your own and now they're coming out with another one and it's getting to be almost a joke.
Yeah.
And people are going, oh, I got to have the foolproof. Well, you can do the antique for less, and it's a higher proof and a better bourbon.
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, it's not a higher proof, but it's out there. It's 107 is, in my opinion, nearly perfect for this wheated.
Great bourbon.
Yeah. And if you lined up every single Weller on me and said pick one, I'd run to the antique every single time.
Yeah. And I think I agree. I would probably go between antique. 12 is really good. I do really enjoy the Weller 12. To be honest with you, though, I mean, we did a really fun game this past weekend or the weekend before, where we blindly tasted 3 bourbons and we had like 12 different bourbons that it could have been, and one of them was Weller Special Reserve, and I was like, man, this one actually, of the 3 that we tried, one of them was Wild Turkey, or it was a Kentucky Spirit, and then another one was Maker's 46. And the Weller Special Reserve, out of those 3, was my favorite. Obviously it's
maybe a blind tasting.
Yeah. But it was really cool to kind of see, where it falls. In other Buffalo Trace news, this has been something that's kind of been going around social media. Rockhill Farms discontinued. A lot of people have been saying that it's becoming discontinued because they haven't seen it recently. I have never seen it on a shelf at all, so that doesn't really mean anything. I want to go ahead and kill the rumor right now that Rockhill Farms is not being discontinued. Buffalo Trace has gone on the record saying that it is not discontinued. They have no plans to discontinue it. This same thing happened back in 2016. They're still producing it at regular levels. But that was something that was in the news recently, bourbon news at least, was Rockhill Farms being discontinued. No, it is not. And maybe, we'll see again in 2024 when when I never see it again. We'll have this conversation again. So we talked about Buffalo Trace. The other thing was obviously the most prior to BTAC, Blanton's. Blanton's has been in the news because now Blanton's Gold is available in the United States, and now Blanton's Straight from the Barrel is going to be released in the United States. Both of these being yearly releases, super, super, super allocated, $150 retail price tag. If you can find it for that, buy it. because you're probably not going to see it again unless you go out of the country to actually buy it, or B, it's because it's only being made available one time a year. You're not going to see it until the following year. Blanton's. I want to hear your thoughts, because for a lot of people it's overhyped. For a lot of people it's their creme de la creme. Where do you stand on this whole Blanton's?
Toss me into the overhyped. It can be a good bourbon. The problem is it's single barrel. So that changes barrel to barrel to barrel. And one of the interesting things is I've put Blanton's into blind tastings with Blanton's fans, and Blanton's has almost universally come up last as far as somebody's favorite. Now, saying that, I've had gold, I've had straight from the barrel. Again, these are single barrel releases, so they change every time. I was super impressed with the straight from the barrel. I really was. I thought the gold was good. I think they both blow away the standard release. Yeah, which is what we get here in the States. But I mean, it's got a cool stopper on it that people love to collect. They love to spell out Blanton's on their stopper holders, and it's cool. But to me, there are so much better whiskeys out there that are easier to get. And at the end of the day, people miss this. Yeah, it's just whiskey, right? There's
so many out there to try. There's so many out there to try. There's something like 6,000 different just spirits in general, whether it just be, different kinds of gin or different, distilleries or whatever. There's so much out there to try. I know obviously one of my good friends, Maggie Orlando, she loves collecting Blanton's. It's one of her favorites. I like it. I enjoy it. I think maybe it's a little overhyped. I've never had straight from the barrel. I have had gold. In comparison between the two, obviously I like gold better. I like a little bit higher proof. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with, these other releases. It seems like, once gold was released, Buffalo Trace and Sazerac said, okay, well now we're gonna sneak in straight from the barrel. So you have to, right? So it's going to be curious. I'm really curious to see. And then with the acquisition of Early Times, I'm really, really curious to see what Sazerac has in store for the next, decade. What are we going to be looking at? What releases can we look at? And there's Maggie. There's Maggie right there. What releases are we going to be looking at from Buffalo Trace? Will we see something new added to the BTAC series? Will we see a new Blanton's? Will we see Early Times become this really weirdly allocated, who would have ever thunk, you know what I mean? So it'll be really interesting to see what Buffalo Trace does.
Again, they are marketing genius. They are probably the best marketers in the business as far as generating excitement for their whiskeys, more so than anything that Wild Turkey or Heaven Hill or Four Roses even can come up with. And I mean, it's every single thing that they do is you've got to have this one. It's a hit, and people buy the hype and they drive the price up and they clear the shelves. And it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, Buffalo Trace standard release in some markets is allocated.
That's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
That's crazy. I can't be the only one that sees that. And some people are saying, I mean, this is something that we find around here for right around that 16 to 20-ish dollar range. Yeah, maybe $25. And I'm seeing it at Binny's behind a glass case. I'm seeing it at Safeway behind a glass case, and it's going for $26, which is not outrageous. It's not an outrageous price to pay. What are you putting it behind a glass case for? It just seems very, very odd to me that all of a sudden that it's just kind of exploding in popularity. But like you said, they're marketing geniuses. They know exactly what they're doing. They're creating demand.
Oh
They
yeah.
know what the secondary market is doing, and they know that whether or not they like to admit it, they're feeding the secondary market.
Oh, believe me, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They oh no, we don't like the secondary market at all. We don't support it. It's like you guys drive the secondary market.
Well, our MSRP is only $99 for BTEC. What the liquor store owner does is up to them.
Yeah.
Look at Julian Van Winkle a number of years ago. I mean, he was getting legitimately he stopped giving liquor stores access to Pappy because they were charging astronomical prices for it.
Yeah.
I don't think that maybe that's the way that that distilleries or these big conglomerates should go after it. But same way that Buffalo Trace and Heaven Hill and insert distillery here.
Yeah.
It's also the people out there that are willing to pay that price.
Yep.
Right. It's the people that
they are
genuinely buy birthday bourbon for $400 a bottle. Those are the ones that are feeding it.
It's good. It's not a $400 bottle.
No,
I mean, I hate to burst the sales and bubbles of people who are willing to pay that much. It's as you said, it's your money. I wouldn't. It's most I have paid for a bottle of anything was a 2015 George T. Stagg. It was at a charity auction, so I didn't care about overpaying for it.
Mm-hmm.
I paid like $230 for it.
In that instance, in that very, very particular instance, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at what Buffalo Trace did. What was it like? I think it was just last year with their 6 millionth barrel. It was all for charity. There's a lot of these store picks. You've seen those private picks that are. I think it's like fuck cancer. And all the proceeds go towards cancer research. I think it's a beautiful thing that I have no problem dropping, a few $100s on. I did earlier this year before COVID hit and when we could still go out and do things. Angel's Envy released their cellar collection, their second release of the cellar collection. It was retailed at $250. Being a member of 500 Main, I was able to get a chance to buy it. It was like 4 weeks before my wedding, and I was like, I really want something super special, kind of hard to find, rare, allocated, not a lot of people are going to get to drink at my wedding, to toast with at my wedding. So I paid $250 for it, and then obviously, like I said earlier, I paid $100 for Blanton's. But in those instances, it's your money, do what you will with it.
Exactly. And I mean, I've been to plenty of charity auctions where I've seen Pappy go for $6,000-$7,000 for a bottle of whiskey. And I go, you know what? It's your money, more power to you. I would never spend that much on anything less than a car. If I'm dropping $6,000, it's not on a bottle of whiskey, and I love whiskey.
Yeah.
But again, for the people who are willing to do it, more power to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your money, and if that's how you want to spend it, who on God's green earth am I to tell you that you're wrong?
Exactly. Let's get to some more news. I want to know, everybody out there, again, if you guys have any questions, what you guys are drinking tonight, feel free to chit chat with us. Jeff, I'm curious, have you poured any of the samples that I sent you? I'm really curious about one in particular.
What do you want me to pour?
I want you to try the Boot Hill.
Okay.
I want you to try the Boot Hill. I'm curious as to your thoughts. Those are the samples that I'm actually waiting for. That were supposed to be here today. FedEx said that there was a rain delay, even though it was just sprinkling outside. So I should be hopefully getting them tomorrow after work. We are working on a private barrel with Boot Hill. Really, really great kind of nutty flavor to it. It is a little young. It's not aged for a super long time, but some of the samples that we're going to be getting, for those of you who are watching that are actually a part of that private barrel, one of the samples that we're going to be getting is actually a bottled and bond corn whiskey, which I'm super, super, super excited to get. So we'll be doing that. I want to, while you're sampling that, while you're going through your whole spiel there, Andrew Meyer. Andrew, our fellow bourbon steward, what is everybody's favorite that is readily available? So we're actually going to talk about that in just a few minutes, Andrew. So please do not go anywhere, because we will be talking about that. I want to talk about some of these recent Heaven Hill releases. Obviously, it was just recently announced that Parker's Heritage Collection is releasing a new their latest release, which is a 10-year heavy char bourbon, or it's a bourbon that's aged in barrels that have a heavy char on them. I don't particularly care for the Parker's Heritage. I've had a number of them. They're a little pricey for me. I don't even know what the retail is on these. If anybody knows what the retail is on any of the Parker's Heritage, please comment, because I certainly do not know. I'm sure it is well over $100.
Yes, but a portion of this does go to charity.
For the Parker's Heritage, really?
Yeah.
I did not know.
It's whatever Parker died from.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was it Lou Gehrig's, or I don't remember?
I think it was Lou Gehrig's disease that he finally.
So a portion of this goes towards research for a cure for that.
Okay.
That's one of the.
Well, now I feel bad for saying, like, oh no, look, I feel like an asshole. In other Heaven Hill news, Old Fitzgerald Bottled and Bond 14-year just recently came out. That one's also got a high price tag to it. Super allocated. I know ALS. Andrew Meyer goes to ALS.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mark Augustin here. What do both of you think about the new ultra-priced Mizunara cask-finished bottles that have been coming out? Angel's Envy, Heaven's Door bootleg. I want to say maybe 2 months ago, we have some friends that actually live right down the street from us, really good friends of ours, Kurt and Heather, and our good friend Stephen Reike, who helps me operate the Fox Valley Whiskey Society. We go over there from time to time. Stephen has a bottle of Irish whiskey. I want to say it's Glendalough, that's finished in these ultra rare Japanese Mizunara oak casks. It adds to the flavor a little bit. Now, I can't necessarily compare bourbon to an Irish whiskey that's been aged in these Mizunara casks. I think the price point, obviously it's tough to say, because these barrels are super hard to get a hold of. The tree itself has to be over 200 years old before they even cut it down to make these barrels out of. So not only do the trees have to be old, but they only grow in certain parts of the world. They have to be, they have to be harvested at a certain time of year. Because it's a different kind of oak, they don't fit together as well as regular American white oak. So there's a lot of things that go into it. They're super expensive. So they have to build that cost into the price of the whiskey. Angel's Envy, like you said, Mark, is going for like $350. Heaven's Door bootleg is like $500 plus. And that's the one, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I think that's the one that comes in the book, where it's like a prohibition kind of thing, where you open it up and there's a bottle of bourbon in there. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's too much. It's too much. Knowing now that Parker's Heritage goes to charity, that I might spend money on. I don't know that I would spend $350 or $500 on anything for this Mizunara oak. Have you had any bourbon that was aged in this style of cask?
Never.
And you know what? And honestly, I haven't either. I've had Irish whiskey, but I don't know. I don't know how to properly judge that call. We got a question here. Hello, gentlemen. First off, sorry that your box didn't arrive. Oh, wait a minute. Is this Lee?
Lee Griffith.
Lee. Don't worry, Lee. So the one that you're sipping on right now, Jeff, the gentleman that's up on the screen, this is Lee Griffith. Lee, it says his name right there. So Lee's a good friend of mine. He's he's kind of like he's the repo down there at Boot Hill Distillery in Dodge City, Kansas. Lee, it didn't show up today because it was sprinkling here, and FedEx decided that they did not want to leave it at my front door, even though I need to sign for the package. So I'll get it tomorrow. I'm super, super excited for this, Jeff. I'm really, really kind of excited. While we've got Lee watching, I'm really excited to hear what you think about Boot Hill, because honestly, for me, this is one. It kind of.
You locked up. So I'll talk here while you're unlocking yourself. I've been sniffing it, and I'm getting a very, very interesting orange peel, and it's so strong I can't get a whole lot past that. When I breathe through my mouth and bring it in, there's a lot of caramel in there. But as far as the nose, I'm getting some light oak, but I'm not getting, I'm having a hard time getting past the orange peel and orange zest that's on the nose on this. Oh, is that interesting? It doesn't taste overly young. I don't know what age is on this. Wait, there's a lot of that orange that comes into the palate too. Not a problem. I know Mike will be right back. That's why I'm trying to do this tasting here. Jeff is trying, I don't know, it says Boot Hill Bourbon. It doesn't tell me much more than that. So I couldn't tell you if this was red eye or not. I'm not even sure what that is, but it says bourbon, so I guess that answers your question. This has a very, very nutty, definitely a lot of nut. The orange hangs on, and then on the back, gosh, it's heavy on nuts and orange. Yeah, getting confirmation there. This is just a bourbon, not the red eye. This is sweet. It's almost like candy. And if you were telling me that this was young, there's nothing harsh about this. There's nothing that's ponying up, your typical too young whiskey. Kind of curious as to what size barrels were used. That may be a contributing factor if it's smaller barrels. Lee, I don't know if you can add into that. High wheat, 49%. Okay. Hey, we're back.
I'm back.
Welcome back. I sold the rights to the show while you were off.
Hold on one sec, Jeff.
Okay.
Keep going.
We had an auction while you were gone. The rights to the show have been sold off. The good news is you're up $1 million. I don't know if you could. I need 49%. Okay. Hey, we're back.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can also hear me coming through as you're streaming it.
There we go. I'm so glad we only got 2 more after this, and then we don't have to worry about Wi-Fi anymore. I did. Dina had her phone open. I was listening. So to me, I don't remember how old it was. Let's see. Here we go. Good deal. It's 2 years old. High wheat, 49%. So these guys, I did a show with them maybe like 2 months ago, something like that. They sent me a sample of the bourbon. Really loved it. Actually ended up finishing the bottle actually over the course of just a few nights. And they're sending some samples. I heard a little bit of it, but give me so I want your rating. What is it? Bottle?
This
bar,
is,
or bust?
I have no idea what it costs, which is okay. And I don't really want to know right now. This to me is almost a dessert bourbon. It's got some nuttiness. It's got a lot of orange that I'm picking up, a lot of sweetness. I'm enjoying this. No idea what it costs. And without getting the price comparison part, I'm not buying it. It's a bottle. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. Nothing here. There's nothing here not to like. There's no harshness of flavor. There's nothing that's overly, sometimes you get the woodiness and the ethanol blast, or it tastes like it's all corn. I'm not getting any of that. If you told me this was 2 years old, I'd want to know what size barrels were used. But this is a very good one. Without knowing the price, I would say this is a bottle purchase. So who knows what the price is on this? Using 53 gallons. Okay, nice. So Mike's been having some issues with Wi-Fi here. Apparently they're bad enough where he wants to move because of it. But this thing is good. I'm enjoying it. I wish I had a bigger bottle. I need to look up to where I can get this, because I would definitely pick up one. And now I'm curious about whatever the heck the Red Eye is. Just completely unfamiliar with this distillery, but you've got my attention, Lee. What's everybody else snacking on here? Okay. It says I can end the show because Wi-Fi won't come back up. So I'm going to do one last thing here before I end the show. Charity of my choosing for the 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge. Reflex Sympathetic Dystrophy Syndrome Association. It looks for a cure for CRPS, which is a horrible nerve disorder. My wife has been battling it for 7 years, which is the reason that I choose it every year to support. It's great charity. And, just whichever one you pick is fine by me. It doesn't have to be this at all. It can be anything. Support your bartenders who are out of work. Find somebody local to help your economy. Enjoy the 30 days of bourbon. Hit on up bourbonbanter.com. Register. It's not too late. We've got some awesome prizes for the month. And other than that, it's been a lot of fun being on this show. It's a lot of fun owning this at the end. And hopefully next year when Mike gets set back up, we'll have another episode. In the meantime, enjoy Bourbon Heritage Month. Stay safe. Cheers, everybody. Good night.